What's going on, guys? Back with another breakdown video, and today I wanted to go over the Cyberpunk Synthwave style shoot that I did right before winter hit. It was of this R34 here, and once I knew the color, I've been playing with this idea in my mind. I love the whole cyberpunk art, I guess you could say. So I knew I wanted to have some sort of shot that I was working on that was in the same theme. And when I saw that this car was going to have this beautiful purple, a very rare and iconic color for the R34, I knew it was going to play really well with all the cyans I had planned for the synthwave style shoot. So yeah, this is the next breakdown, and then we're actually going to do two files in this episode. We're going to break down this. It's kind of like a set. But yeah, so if you guys have been here before and seen the breakdown videos, you guys know we go layer by layer, and we sort of talk about what I was thinking, why I did some things, what I was planning for, and where it got, and we kind of break the layers down together. So I really appreciate you guys sticking around. For those of you who have subscribed, I want to be doing more of these, and I plan on being way more active on the YouTube channel here with multiple different things, not just breakdown videos. So I appreciate you guys sticking around and kind of waiting for me to come back. All right, so let's dive right into it. So the first layer, and if you guys watch any of my other videos, you'll know that this is my layer that I kind of just throw down here. It's after I select the car out, I just kind of put it down there, and it just works in my mind. There's tons of ways you can throw that in paths and have it saved over there in your selections, but I like it just down there. I can quickly, scroll down my files and boom, select the car and grab it when I need it. So this doesn't really do anything. Clicking this on and off, you shouldn't see anything. It's more so just a grab file. So then we got this. This is my base background layer that I'm starting this photo with. It's, we're going to shoot frames for the car, and we're going to shoot frames for the background. This is the background, the final background I decided to roll with. And, believe it or not, I used to hate shooting in the city of Rochester because there was tons and tons of orange and yellow grungy lighting. And it's been a while since I've shot at night downtown, and there is so much white, cooler looking light, and it was actually a pleasant surprise, and I it worked out to my advantage for what I was planning on doing, because I was able to take my white balance and go on the cooler side of things, make these lights here. You see how they have like kind of a blue haze to them already? I knew that if I was getting a hazy blue color out of there, I was going to be able to color shift that later. If this was just white and I was trying to color shift what was already there, there's nothing to shift. But if I knew I had cyans and blues, I was going to be able to work with the photo a little bit more in getting some of this stuff done in camera, or not necessarily in camera, but instead of having to like put a fake flare in necessarily, which you still have to do a little bit, but it just it set the tone, I guess you could say, for the rest of the image. And you can see we went with I kept the ground like with a cyany blue in here, because I knew I was going to contrast with dumping light onto the purple car. So in this file, and I'm trying to get better at knowing I want to do these breakdown videos and not compressing my layers. But you can see down here, I was working on, with this file right now, I was at 2 gigs, and before, when I had all my light layers in there, I think I was pushing on nearly 3 gigs, and Photoshop was not very happy with me. I do need to update some of my hardware. So unfortunately, I compressed a ton of those light layers, so you're going to have to bear with me there. And I can kind of explain, since I don't have to show them, I can explain where my lights were to get what I did. So let's just go like that. So basically, this shot is pretty self-explanatory. The one important thing too with this first, let's just call it the first layer of light, and I wish I could click on the other layers, but I knew that I was going to imply the direction of light was coming from the scene of the city. The imagination can kind of take you there, because I have this big block of light coming from over here. So with my subject, I need to plant it there, right? So I took a strobe layer and went pretty high and shined it down like that to create this cast shadow. Now that cast shadow kind of is starting to make this seem like a scene. I think a lot of stuff at night doesn't keep that into mind. They'll go around 360 degrees around the car and light everything up and keep it a perfect circle of light around the car. But like that's lighting the car, and I think you kind of lose some of the story or some of the realness of what you're going for there. So I think it's important to really think about where that shadow is going to fall for what you're trying to do. If you are just trying to light the car and you want to just keep the background all the way black, yeah, sure, then let's just keep a nice haloing circle of light around the car. That's fine too, but for what I wanted to do, I wanted to infer that the light was coming from over here, so the shadow was massively important. So with that shot, I had spill coming on the side of the car, which was great because it nicked the wheel there, and then I started working down the side of the car. So the first light was like right there. The second light, same height, was like right here, and then working down the car at the same height, splashing all like that. So that was for the side of the car. And then on the rear, again, I wish I did not compress these. I'm going to get better at keeping some of these files. But then over here on the left side, I layer masked in more light hitting the rear of the car, and I'm going to click that on right there. So if we just look at the final real quick, we had a light hitting there, a light hitting there, a light hitting there, and then we had a light hitting here and a light hitting here. And that's all got layer masked into this first shot. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably about 6 layers of light, 7, 8 if you want to count specifically lighting the wheels for those final shots there. So next up we have a bunch of color toning and some minor changes to the wheels. I zoom in here for you. You'll see that rear wheel and the front wheel kind of pop. I try to get them more evenly lit. You can see that back light, the back wheels, you kind of struggling. And later, since I don't have those strobe shots, later I actually just take another frame that I had the wheel back here lit in, and I pop that on, just the wheel. Everything is getting put on this shot. Nothing else is coming from, the background is the background now, until we start color grading it and adding to this background. So then I add in the taillights on a completely separate frame. I just, take the exposure very dark so that the lights are the only thing that are going to be bright. And then we got more color grading, so you could see a massive blue shift. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it, but if you just look at this whole block, you'll see like way more cyan gets dumped in. And we're just slowly setting the file up to go in the color grade of that cyberpunk look. It looks goofy right now, obviously, because the purple's not yet popping on this car. And I will say that this was a very, very challenging car to light, because you can see in this right here, I got beautiful purple here, but there was look at all this brown. Depending on what angle the light was at and what angle you were looking at it, you got a flake of purple, you got a flake of brown, you got a flake of green, and editing all of that together was actually pretty challenging. So I'm happy with where I was able to get the file. Again, more tail. Now this is adding a glow to the tail. This is actually adding a glow to most of the lighting in the entire file. And a little bit of that is using linear dodge gradient maps, and then a little bit of it's like using the method, the Orton effect. But with my gradient maps, I have some in here. Let's just say, just for example, I'll just do it in orange. We're going to change this to linear dodge, radial, and you get a glow of light like that. Now we can move that glow anywhere, right? So in that layer there, I'm just going to click it on and off. You can see I put purple ones over the blue lights, blue ones over the lights I wanted to stay blue, and it kind of gave it an extra little glow, and again started getting it in the direction that I wanted to take it in. And you can also see that all the lights that are on in the building, I started putting glows, like glows of light that were coming through the windows, and later in the file, I go even more individual on each window. So we're back to more cleanup. Let me just turn the group on. So this is where it's going to look a little funny now, since I compressed a lot of my other layers. They're not there. So this final file up here is, got all the sauce in it, but this is going to look really weird without those other files. So we can just skip through that. But basically what this blotchiness is, it's healing and clone stamping on a layer that should be directly under it, but since I had to try to make some room on this file, it got compressed, and now that's what it looks like. Luckily, our main file above doesn't look like that anymore. So let's just get through the clean layer, since that's going to be irrelevant for this. And you can kind of see the trunk getting put on there and stuff. I really wish I had the other strobe layers, because this was I should have known that I was going to want to talk about this one a little bit. So here on this file, we just added in, again, another linear dodge, and instead of linear dodging, I screened it because it was a little bit too bright on the linear dodge. Dropped down to 16% opacity, and I shaped in a radial gradient map to make it seem like it was the brake lights kind of looking like they were truly on. And you can do some of that in camera. And shoot a layer of the red spilling, but I wanted a little bit more control. I didn't want this whole area to be glowing red, or I wanted the consistency of like the blue harsh cutting to the red, cutting back to the blue. And then to take it in this direction, a lot of this stuff is two things. It's using paths to create lines. And I'll show you guys that. So if you create two lines there, and you go and put your brush size down to whatever you want it to be. So what I like to do is sometimes I'll zoom in and I'll go over the item, like, okay, I want it to be that thick, right? So now you leave your brush size at 20. You're gonna go back to the pen tool, and you're gonna stroke the path, and you're gonna want to make sure that the color you want to stroke it in is selected, and then boom, you'll have a stroked straight line like that, right? So now how you take it to having a glow like this is, one, make sure it's as soft as it can go, which we were, and then two, when you have the line, pop it on like that, and then you can come in here and edit the outer and inner glow. And if you're purple, you want to be like a little whiter than something like that. So you got something like that. And now that's basically what I did here. I put a line going from there to there, and then from there to there. And that's pretty much the same thing I did up here. And then all these windows, I added more of the linear dodge glow effect. So let's just run through it. You can kind of see it. You see it there, right? I didn't mind that it was spilling over. I kind of wanted it to spill over the window frames. But let's just say we wanted to make more. Go like this, pop there. Okay, linear dodge. Pop one on, right? And then we'll Control T it, and we'll start forming it to where we want. Now, it doesn't make sense over a black window. You need a brighter spot to be in like kind of the center of that for it to make sense, to make it seem like something was coming on. Like, see, I could have put one up here. This light up here could have got one, right? Because now that looks like that light is glowing, and then this is the flare from it, you know, so something like that. Now that makes more sense. But that's what I did. I did that with cyan, and I did that with purple, and then I just repeated on a lot of the lights that were already on in my photo. If you click off of this, you'll see. And in the beginning stages, I tried something there that I ended up just going even more with, like, brighter with the linear dodge little pockets there that I just showed you guys. And that's pretty much it. And then the overall photo from here got this, you know, blue hue to it, and then stars put right on it. There's so many ways to put stars onto photos now. You could just screen it if there's just fuzziness shot on black. You can take like a fuzzy looking, it's almost how you do snow. You could take a fuzzy looking filter or flare, and with levels you can control how much shows through with darkening it. And basically what I did was I put it up there, and then I brushed it, I layer masked it and brushed it in those specific spots to make it look like there were some stars. I hated how it was looking, just blackness up there. The space was so negative. And the consistency of black up there is because I took my black point and I did like a fade by bringing up this black point, whether it was in curves or camera raw. I took this black point here and I just crushed the blacks a bit, knowing that this photo was going to be having that sky there. I was getting a lot of, from these hazes, I was getting a weird banding issue that I wasn't too crazy about with the normal sky being in there. So I crushed the blacks a little bit in order to achieve a much smoother looking black up there. And it worked out because it kind of blended with the buildings a little bit more and made it seem even more sci-fi-ish with the stars, I guess you could say. My overall, this is where the photo got. My overall plan was to potentially composite this and drop a different city in. I do not know how to do CGI, which I wish I did, but I would have loved to take this in a grungier route. Many times we see Cyberpunk, we see it to be a little bit more like techno grunge instead of this being a bit clean. But then when I got to this point, I actually really enjoyed this, and it didn't look like all the other Cyberpunk content that was being posted at the time. This looked way more realistic to me, and you know, I kind of changed my mind on the direction I wanted to go in. But yeah, so that's this photo, and again, I'm sorry that I don't have those strobe layers for you guys. I will make it a point to maybe not crush those layers and crush some of these other ones to show off what exactly I did on merging those layers together. So yeah, that's that photo. And then we'll dive right into this one too. And I wanted to have a couple photos. I didn't want to just have like a one-hit wonder. I wanted to have a collection of, I try to aim for at least 3 to 4 photos for any set, just to have a body of images together that flow instead of just posting a one shot and done. But yeah, so this was the second shot. And again, this first layer here is just my selection. And then this was the background layer that we started with. So this, again, the reason why it's so blown out, the reason why it's not even hitting the side of the car, it's not for that. It was for me to create, again, at night. I'm inferring that, I'll show you guys right here. I am trying to tell the viewer that right there is lighting up my scene. That light to me is very important. So what I did was, on this frame, I created my floor saying that light was bright back there, and that created all of this and all of this, all of that, which obviously we didn't get his legs in there. And then it, again, very important, made my shadow and planted the car there. Even like right there, it plants the wheels, it plants the tires. It starts to make this scene believable instead of just dumping in perfect light around the car. Now you're lighting with a purpose, saying this is the scene and the car is being lit by this scene. So that's the reason why this layer is underlying everything. So then we build on it. So this background layer is the actual background I wanted to use, and now that's merged with the floor that I just showed you guys. And there's my first layer with the car, and then there's the front end. So a little bit easier to light this one, just because it was a bit darker over here. My strobe was a little bit more powerful in canceling other things out, but it was a three strobe lights basically. So one's here aiming like this and creating that, and then the next one is like up here shooting down like this, and then I believe I brought the light closer to me and shot from the same height, always from the same height, but I did shoot one like kind of straight at the front end, you know, to kind of fill in over here. When I was to the right passenger headlight, I was getting a bit of a spill off, and it was going to make right here pretty difficult to blend. So I needed to have another layer of light or two to have these corners meet when I started merging everything together. And that's the lighting of the car there. So right here is just a little color shift. If you could see before I click that, everything about the car is a bit purple. So when you click this, you'll see the front carbon fiber lip gets a desaturation. The grill gets a desaturation. The headlights get purple taken out of it. The wheels get purple taken out of it. And they get a little bit of blue almost added to it. And then on this next file here, I'm starting to add glow, which is a mixture, again, of the linear dodge, very, very lightly linear dodged cyans and purples, and then a little bit of the Orton effect, which is some blur glow that is a little bit popular now, and especially in the synthwave vibe. So boom, again, more. You see the purple pops in right there into certain sections, and I wanted it to be purple, cyan, purple, cyan, purple, cyan, and playing off of that same vibe as the other photo. Right there is another linear dodge glow effect coming from the stairs of the parking garage. And this is going to be a more glowing effect coming. I wanted this hazy dreamscape synthwave vibe. I definitely wanted it to look far-fetched. I wanted it to look futuristic. And it was, the biggest challenge was like when you look at a lot of synthwave or cyberpunk stuff, and when you look at like New York City and content that's maybe shot at night in those areas, they have so much lighting and billboards being lit and digital advertising, and it makes it possibly easier to do what I'm trying to do here. But I was forced to add glow and add light to potentially places where it really wasn't. But I was happy with it. It was fun to kind of challenge myself into like making it look like a TV was on up here and glowing through the windows and having a little bit of haze coming off of it. It was fun to kind of get lost in my mind a little bit with it and create like a fantasy almost, while it still being of like an iconic car that I grew up loving. So this is more light added to the car itself. Just needed a little bump to kind of stand out. Right here is fine, but the little bit of light starts to separate it from the background just a tiny bit. We're always looking to do that, is to gain a little bit of separation. These are cleanup layers. So you can see most of it is to the car. I'll zoom in on the car. So this is the rear panel, the front bumper, and the hood. Basically taking a bunch of the little light hits off of it. It's okay to have some of them. I wanted some of them, like you can see I got a couple on the back here, you know, to plant it with those lights, whatever light was to the right. So it's important to keep some of them. You don't want to take all of them out. It will start looking very, very fake. So I'm just going to click all these on. You can see the hood gets even more smooth. And then more purple gets added in. It's not even more purple. It's I basically shifted the purple. If you look at the hood, it starts to get pretty dull. Once I started doing some of the brush work on it, it got a bit dull. And with this, it adds purple back into it through curves. A lot of times, like, I'll do a curve. Like, say this front panel here was not purple enough. We wanted it to be more purple. There's a bunch of ways you can do it, but let's just do something quick. And it's going to be pretty sloppy, but just to show you guys what I mean, say we thought this was going to be too dark and it didn't match the purple of the rest of the car. So we'd select that, probably like 1 point. We like it to spill a little bit because if it's harsh, it's going to look super weird. And let's just get this out of here too. Really quickly, really quickly. Select, subtract it from the selection. So sometimes I'll have a layer like this, and I'll jump into my curves. And now since that spot's selected, I'll switch my blend mode over to color. And this card's purple, so we'll jump into the green layer, and towards the highlights is going to make it green, but towards the shadows is going to make it more purple. So you can already see now how that blends potentially even better than I had it. This was standard. This is the image I had at the final, and this was adding even more purple to it. So now what one could do is, you don't have to stop there. You can take a brush now and say, oh, I really like that. And we can take a brush, leave it at 100%, and start painting in more purple in these other areas that didn't catch the strobe light like we wanted it to. And now we're just adding purple in there. Now if I click on and off, you'll see that whole section's changing. And it's a very subtle, but it does a lot when you're looking at the overall photo. It does a lot for the separation. It does a lot for letting the eye say that's purple and that's not. So already, you know, we potentially have a better front bumper there than we even had before. But yeah, it is very subtle. You zoom in, just click it on and off. But yeah, something like this was, like I said, it was something I've been wanting to try for a very long time. We don't necessarily have the city look that I'm going for, which is like just congested with advertisement and light and billboards, and I'd love to try it in that setting as well, to have a bit grungier and noisier look, and then try to separate the car off of that. But I was happy with the way this turned out in the couple of locations. I planned these locations out, so I knew of these two exact locations I wanted to attempt this specific thing in. I think sometimes if you just have an idea and you just go out and randomly just scoot around, it's easy to get discouraged because you don't even have the location. It's just a thought at that point. If you can kind of plan it out, map it out. I knew that the garage was gonna give me, up on the garage, I knew it was gonna give me like a lot of this glowing, even naturally. Like, I knew there was gonna be a lot of light up there, you know, on a photo like that. I knew there was going to be a lot of light up there, and that's what made me want to go and actually attempt this and see what I could pull out and what I could manipulate those lights into being with, white balancing and hue saturation. The best thing about too is when you have color and you come into hue saturation, we can move this in a lot of different directions now since there is color, and it only works better in camera raw too. So if all my lights were blue back there, if all my lights were blue in the background here, I could say, okay, there's a color there. I want them to be yellow. I want them to be, have a red look. And, this is a really quick way of showing you it. But when you're working in the raw file and that's what you want to do right off the bat, you can start setting up those to be exactly what you want. Because you could go with something like this. But then when you take one of those linear dodge glows that we have, and these are not anything special, they're just gradient maps that are on transparent backgrounds, and you pop that in there, now all of a sudden we have a red glow coming from, now that light looks red. I know it didn't when we did the hue and saturation. And there's a couple of reasons why. It's because I'm doing this on a photo that's already edited and already like pushed in a direction. But like it just shows you that, when you have the location planned, you can really take it in a different direction that actually gives it a shot to get there. But yeah, so these were the two I wanted to talk about today. And I had a lot of fun working and challenging myself on something like this. It had been a very long time since I really even shot at night. And I think that's an important note too. If there's one thing you haven't done, make sure you get out there and do it. Just even if it's a refresher, it doesn't matter if you're, a pro or an amateur. It definitely is always good to get out there and get your hands on a ton of different styles. That way, if somebody comes at you and says, "I really like the way my car looks at night," you can say, "Oh, I can do that. Let's get out there and get after it." Generally at night it's a little bit more lighting intense, editing intense. So it's easy to shy away from it, but when you do it correctly, you can get some pretty wild and awesome results, and there's not a lot of other people out there to bother you. That was a nice thing too, is we didn't have any hassle being out there at night and doing this. I don't know how the people on the right of this image up here, I don't know how all these people enjoyed me blasting my strobe at their building a couple times, but I did actually manage to do it in just a couple of shots, so that wasn't annoying them too much. We had a couple of people close their blinds really quickly, so I'm glad I got the base layer done before letting my strobe go wild and light this whole area up. But yeah, so this was the R34 synthwave inspired shoot. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm going to be putting out another video very quickly in an effort to get things rolling on this YouTube page. But yeah, so if any support helps, likes, follows, I really appreciate it. I hope this helps you guys. I know I touch briefly on a lot of things, but I'm thinking that the majority of people watching already kind of have their neck in the photo game and are just trying to see like the way my mind is going about building a photo from the ground up. But yeah, if you guys do have any questions and I can help clarify on some specific things, just throw something in the comments or shoot me a DM on Instagram or comment on Instagram, anything. I'm usually pretty active and vocal on having a chat and conversating with people. I love to interact with the community that I have, so definitely don't be shy, and yeah, any support helps greatly. So yeah, I will catch you guys later, and I hope you guys enjoyed.